Hi, I'm Mark Wybrow, and this is the Electronic Cafe, the channel for the lovers of electronic music.
And I'm Andy McNabb. So let's get started. So welcome to another brilliant Legends interview edition of the Electronic Cafe. In this show, Mark and I will show you the fantastic chat we had with just an amazing Neil Arthur from Blancmange. I will say we had one disappointment. It wasn't Neil, it was Neil's Wi-Fi. It kept breaking up and the poor guy just kept redialing in. So I know Mark's going to have to also had an editing challenge, but we'll make the best of it. But that aside, he was just so funny, engaging, smart, just a fantastic guy, real down to earth, real salt of the earth kind of bloke. But also, let's make no mistake. What a brilliant musician, what a great artist. His output over the last 10 or 12 years has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So we'll talk about that, we'll talk about the new album that's coming out and the tour. I'm super excited about seeing Neil on the road again. But yeah, sit back and enjoy this brilliant conversation with Mr. Neil Arthur from Blancmange. Did you think like 40 years later you'd be so relevant, so cool when you started this journey of yours?
Cool, blimey. That's a word for Blancmange. I didn't think I'd be doing it 4 years later, let alone 40.
Line hope, line visions, line center, one center, line living and seeing, line hell, line visions and no reasons for action, line words, line visions and no reasons for action, line words.
Hi everyone, today is another one of those very special pinch yourself moments on the Electronic Cafe, as we are joined by another legend, an absolute hero of Mark and mine, and arguably the busiest man in music with his ridiculous but brilliant output. Today we welcome Mr. Neil Arthur to Electronic Cafe. Neil, welcome my friend, it's so lovely to have you here.
Hello Andy and hello Mark, really nice. Thank you very much indeed for having me along to have a chat with you.
We appreciate you giving your time up today. I mean, and Andy touched on it. I mean, we've been fans of Blancmange and you since we used to see you supporting Depeche Mode all the time back in the day. You seem to be the go-to support band whenever we saw Depeche Mode in the 80s and in the early 80s. So we've been there from the beginning, and we love those old albums, and we're loving your output over the last 10 years. It's been phenomenal.
Thank you.
Neil, did you think, I mean, obviously you started in, I think it was 79, but, did you think like 40 years later you'd be so relevant, so cool when you started this journey of yours?
Cool, blimey. That's a word for Blancmange. I didn't think I'd be doing it 4 years later, let alone 40.
Your output though, especially, I mean, I mentioned it in the beginning, like, busiest man in music to my mind. How do you stay so inspired? Because your output's immense.
I don't know in that sense. I mean, I just write, because creativity is kind of like being creative is kind of the place I suppose I'm happiest. And I've got quite a bit to get off my plate, and of course as it comes off the plate I tend to twist it before I throw it out there, so it normally comes with a bit of a certain amount of ambiguity in there, but I just really enjoy the creative process, and not only with Blancmange, but I'm also lucky enough to get to work with some really fantastic musicians, very good friends.
Yeah.
For example, with Blancmange, Benge,
Yeah.
and on the new album that's coming out in September, my old mate David Rhodes is back playing guitar with us on that one as well, which has been great to kind of do some work with David again. And then Benge and I reverse the roles in a way, and he sends me some of the embryonic ideas that he comes up with for Fader. Yeah. And we have that project as well, I know. So I'm a lucky man. So I'm fortunate enough to get to work with some lovely people. But in terms of being creative, I mean, I've just there's a lot going on, isn't there? There's an awful lot of shit around. There's a lot of things I'm not happy about. I don't sing about it as directly as that, I don't suppose, but I kind of observe things, and my goodness, so I write I've been doing DIY over the last few weeks, on and off, on things in the house, and listening to music, lots of other people's music, and then in between that, I start kind of like I'm doing a bit of filling or something, and I go, I'm away. I've got some lyrics here. So I just write it all. It just comes, and I just write all this stuff down, and some of it's a load of crap and some of it's all right, I suppose,
Yeah, it's really funny.
I don't know whether it is or not really, but.
I've been developing Polaroids on a dead letter day. The ship is on the foot of this father. Anna died with me.
You mentioned Fader, and as I was preparing for this interview, I wrote, well, you've done 2 albums, when's the next one? I said to Mark, I'm going to ask that question. He went, Andy, he released it last week, Quartz, which I just bought. So and then you make the announcement for the tour, for the new Blancmange album. And Mark, you mentioned the guitarist guy, and Mark sent me a clip of a track, and the new album's sounding awesome, absolutely awesome.
Yeah, sometimes these, it's a really cracking track.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, the output, I spoke to a lot of people that was, signed back in the 80s, and I think the roller coaster of like album tour writing was quite phenomenal. But you've released, I think, 10 albums under your own name since 2011. And it's not just the releasing of the album, it's the work that goes into it. It's like the writing and the recording, production, mastering, and everything, getting it out. So you must be just like constantly churning your music out.
Well, I do write a lot, and it doesn't all get released. Some of it doesn't make it, but the thing is, I've got my own label, and I've got a very good manager. I feel Steve Malins. He's brilliant. A good friend as well, and we talk about different releases that we might be able to kind of get out there. And because it's my label and I do it on my terms, I'm not really answerable to anybody. So if we think, there's a space, or there's room, or there's time, and it's not, going to get in the way of another project or whatever, why not let it out there? And, and there are different ways of releasing it. I'm not kind of having to go through until now, which I'm sure we'll end up talking about. I've just been able to kind of go, right, well, we'll do a few thousand of them, and then we'll do a limited edition of that, for example, with the Nil by Mouth releases. That all stemmed from me having written film music since I kind of more or less stopped with Blancmange in the 80s. And I started doing incidental music and titles and some adverts and stuff like that. So I'd got this, you had to learn to work quickly. Sure. And I quite enjoyed that kind of, that's it. It has to be done then. Yeah. It won't go on past there. The other thing I learned was, and I found this very difficult in the 80s when Stephen and I were working together, actually letting go of something and saying, that's enough on it.
Yeah.
what I do now is, with the help of my manager, and I've got to say, my partner Helen, she's amazing. She's put up with me for bloody decades, and I've learned by listening to the advice that's offered to me. Less is so much more.
Yeah.
And I can have loads of ideas. We talked about I write a lot of songs, but sometimes I think I probably did was I'd keep adding to the same song and not be able to let go of it.
Yeah.
Whereas now I kind of go, that's enough for that. That's it. And yes, it's flawed. Of course it's flawed. Everything is flawed, always, forever. So let go of it. And it's such a nice feeling when you do let go of it and it goes on to that next stage of mastering and then for releasing into production rather. And then I just get on with the next one.
Yeah.
So it's gone then. And I think, you might know this anyway about me, that I'm not really a person who dwells on what's gone in terms of looking back at the past. I am very much wanted to know, with all the difficulties, I want to know what's going to be next.
Yeah.
And that's what excites me.
Yeah.
Even though, so terrifying as that may be in all seriousness, but I'm only an artist. I'm only writing music. So
sure.
It's good you reach the point you can let it go and you don't, like Tears for Fears, like hang on to it, just like not letting the albums go. But
I want to get out and play football.
your sound has evolved, like it's really current now. At the time when they, I don't want to dwell on the 80s, but when we saw you back in the 80s, the Blancmange sound was electronic, but very different to most of the things that were around. It was quite a complex electronica, if that makes sense. There was a lot going on, a lot of rhythms in it. Stephen had some really good sounds in there.
He certainly did. Yeah.
Living on a Ceiling and songs like that. I was playing it in the car the other week, just listening to it, and it's a great song. I mean, it's not your normal arrangement of a song, or certainly wasn't around that time,
I think for me, what I like about the early stuff, it's because a lot of bands, I'm not going to, some of it you can really tell they're 80s, but some of your stuff is dated really well. It really still sounds quite fresh, some of it. I mean, Waves for me for that period still is one of my favourite songs of the 80s. Absolute gem of a song.
I can hardly see. Sometimes these hands in front of me, my friends. Sometimes these.
Mate, going back, I mean, obviously you're a very creative, artistic man, but what music inspired you to do what you do, back in the day? Who kind of made you sit and go, this is what I want to do for, the rest of my life?
Well, first of all, I started, growing up, I really liked T-Rex.
Oh, yeah.
And then the first big concert I went to at I come from a place called Darwin in Lancashire.
Yeah.
And the nearest town is, big town, is Blackburn, which is my football team I support. And I went down 1973 with my mate Beanie. We went down and saw, in fact, I got ticket number 4. I saw David Bowie on his,
oh my God,
on the Stardust, Ziggy Stardust tour.
Wow.
And that's kind of a life-changing moment.
Yeah, that'll
help. When you see something like that. But I didn't want to be a musician. I just wanted to do art. So I wanted to be a painter. And it wasn't really till I got to college, art college in London, that I realized that I could use the same type of method, but making noise as I did with my art. So I kind of, instead of doing an illustration or a silkscreen print or whatever it might be, you could make some noises with stuff. And I could play guitar a little bit.
Yeah.
Not very well. I certainly never sung. And of course I met Stephen, and we found our common ground was that we were both listening to Noi, Pere Ubu, Kraftwerk, Eno, particularly off the back of Roxy Music.
Sure.
Obviously Bowie, stuff like that. Captain Beefheart, Velvet Underground. And the post-punk was a kind of a liberation, but it was a very short-lived explosion like at a firework display. It goes off and it's very exciting, but it's gone. After it was for me more exciting because post-punk started kind of people going, all right, we can express ourselves, but we're going to do it in a slightly different. Then you got this idea of people not being in, just for want of a better word, conventional, that kind of thing. So people started looking at other ways to express themselves and other instrumentation.
Yeah.
And me and Stephen were interested in going down that route. So using tape loops and
Nice.
or anything that, try and make some noises with it. So I don't know if that answers your question or I've just made a right cock up of it.
You keep me running round and round, well that's alright with me. Up and down, I'm up the wall, I'm up the bloody tree. That's alright with me, yeah, that's alright with me. Well, it feels alright to me, yeah, it looks alright to me. And I'm so tall, you raise me and then you let me fall.
No, but speaking of post-punk, how did you get onto this Some Bizarre album? Because there was a lot of bands were, in the same mindset as you. You're in great company on that album. The Depeche Mode, Soft Cell.
That was an amazing album.
B-Movie. I mean, how did you guys get onto that compilation? Because it's still a groundbreaking album.
It's kind of difficult to explain in that period, So I'm going out to see bands like This Heat, Perubu, Cabaret Voltaire, Gang of Four, Joy Division, Tear Up Explodes, who else was I going to see? Clock DVA.
Yeah.
You're going to see all Wire, all these bands, and we're just soaking up all this stuff. And then you kind of go, oh, and Kraftwerk. So Stephen and I, it's made by putting a load of tape loops together and bits and pieces of homemade gear and borrowed and stolen bits and pieces of equipment. And 25 copies of that out of 1,000, they went to different places. But I remember 25 copies went down to Rough Trade, of Portobello Road. And, Notting Hill Gate. And one of the guys who went in and bought one of the 25 copies was Steve-O.
Yeah.
And on the back of the EP was an address, and it was Stephen's address. And Steve-O got in touch with Stephen where he used to live at this flat. And just as a side note, all those credits on the back of that EP are not typeset. They were written on the wall, because we couldn't afford to get the typesetting. So he wrote them on the wall of his flat and then took a photograph of it.
Wow.
So
his landlady went fucking bonkers, excuse me, bonkers. Anyway, years later, she said, oh God, I should have saved it. I could have sold that wall. Anyway, Steve-O picks up a copy, contacts us, and explains his plan to put together a sampler. What I was getting at was news travel quite slowly. You could get The Enemy, and if you're in that, or you might have been in the Sounds, yes. Yeah. But to find out about other bands doing type of music to you, so Steve-O really brought those people together. And that was my first. I was going Irish Mode, and obviously met Matt from The, and some of the other guys from the Fast Set and people like that,
Yeah. Nice.
So we ended up doing these gigs with Depeche Mode and became pretty good mates with them. Well, very good mates with them. And I'm still in touch with Vince. And I came back from rehearsal last week. We've been asked to do Meltdown, Grace Jones's Meltdown, and we're going to support our friend John Grant.
Nice.
So I'm down at rehearsal. I came back and to the very sad news of Andy Fletcher, which just really, really so sad. And I've got fantastic, happy memories of our younger selves together. We used to sit at the front of the coach, me and Andy, and when we were on tour, because we supported them before we had a deal, and we did major tour with them after we had when we had a deal, you know, so, and a few other stuff as well. And I sit at the front and we'd play chess together and stuff like that. And I never won a bloody game. And although we did have a swimming competition once, and we won that easily. There's only two of us, and we beat him, we thrashed him. But very nice memories. But
yeah,
that was really sad news.
Mate, I think it shook us all. I mean, the amount of tributes that went on our Facebook. I mean, our Facebook page just erupted. It was just, and when Mark sent it, I was like, you know, it's like pinching yourself, going, "Is this really happening?"
Thing is as well, Neil, is that me and Andy grew up in the next town to Basildon. So back in the early days, we used to go to Crocs and Raquel's, and we used to see we saw Depeche Mode in all these venues before they were signed. And at the time, we always used to see them on the train, and we used to talk to them at the gigs and stuff. So part of our youth was like chatting to those guys. So for us, we didn't really know Andy, but it was a terrible blow when just seemed out of the blue. It just
unexpected, wasn't it?
Far too young.
Absolutely, absolutely, mate, absolutely.
Like you just mentioned about, you used to see him on the train, and we were doing a gig at, do you know the Hope and Anchor in Islington?
Yes,
we were playing with them at the Hope and Anchor in Islington, and I think they just signed by that time to Mute because Daniel was there.
Sure.
And I came up for work. I was working at London Bridge, and Stephen used to work out in West London. And we got there with the gear, walked in, and Daniel came up and he said, "Do you mind if Depeche go on before you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, it's fine by us." And I said, "But you should be, we're their support tonight, you know." And he said, "No." He said, "It's fine if you don't mind going afterwards." And there's not a massive crowd there, but a lovely crowd there. I said, "Yeah, of course, we'll do that." I said, "What's the reason?" And he said, "Well, they need to get the last train back to Basildon." So they all had to get home. And they would have missed the train.
It's funny, we were talking to Rusty Egan about them, and he said, like, because I remember Rusty did this Valentine's special at Flicks in Dartford. I think Softcell were on it. And he's got the contract. He paid him 50 quid that night to play. 50 quid. You can't even get a ticket for one person for that now.
No, blimey, they did quite well if they got 50 quid. I think we used to have to pay to play.
Oh, mate, I know. It's tough, and it's tough being an artist. I know the music's a brutal industry, so I'm glad you've got your own label. I was just going to say, like, you talked about you listen to lots of other music to help inspire when you're doing it. Who you, because obviously Mark and I talk a lot on our show about new music. That's one of the reasons we set this channel up, to give a platform to existing artists and legends like yourself, but also for new bands, because there's so many out there that just don't have a platform. Anyone out there you could recommend to our audience that you love right now? Anyone recently you've just gone, yeah, these guys are great?
Yeah. Well, I definitely recommend Alice Hubble.
Yes, love Alice.
She's supporting you on some tour dates, isn't she?
She is, and I'm absolutely thrilled that she's agreed to do that. Ed Dowie.
Yeah.
Do you know his music?
Yeah.
So I listened to quite a lot of. I really liked his first album, but the new one is absolutely, well, last year's was absolutely beautiful album. I've been listening to, do you know Low Altitude? Manchester, from Manchester.
No.
More kind of ambient.
He's caught us out.
a more kind of ambient Reflect. It's brilliant, actually. It's an album called Waves.
All right.
It's not so I can get a name check in for one of our songs. But it's really good and very, very different to Blancmange. I really like Lucretia Dalt.
Yeah.
I just love her, the way she approaches, kind of sound and kind of treatment of that. So, there's a few for you.
Yeah, definitely. So
I listen to, I listen to a load of stuff, so.
Yeah, same. I mean, yeah, we're constantly just trying to find some great new stuff. And you're right, there's some great new music out there. It just doesn't get the airplay it used to get.
Give our lads, my son Joe's goes under the name Kincaid. Give his release on Well Street.
Okay.
Recently had out. Kincaid.
Okay, we'll check him out. Definitely.
On Well Street, and he's just had another one come out on Grid, and he's actually just released an ambient album on Bandcamp. But he does some good stuff.
Okay.
But there's my son will be going, Dad, don't say that. But he's done some great, really, really lovely remixes for many people, and including a few for his dad with Blancmange as well. So.
Oh, nice. Mate, I was just thinking,
how are you paying?
I was just thinking, you
I didn't hear that. Yes.
Going back to, I mean, one of the big singles you had back in the day, and we won't talk too much about the old. I want to talk about the new stuff, but back in the day, you did the ABBA's the day before you came. How did you get the permission to release that? What was the?
We just did it, but I'll tell you the lead up to it. I've actually I found that this is the one. It is the actual cassette. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So that's the one, and the last track on the day before you came. We were on holiday, so there's Stephen and his partner, me and mine, and Vince Clark and his partner, and we're all. We went to Tenerife in late 1982, and our living on the ceiling was we'd done a lot of work in the autumn and toured and done some European stuff, and then he said take a break because it's going to get quite busy, and we were going off to New York early 1983. Yeah, so we were going to go and do the Tube on New Year's Eve from up in Newcastle. So we had this break, and 6 of us went away to Tenerife, and with our Walkmans we're listening to cassettes. And the thing I took was, amongst other things, was the singles collection from ABBA. I was brought up with ABBA, and where some people thought ABBA weren't cool, I wasn't bothered whether other people didn't think it was cool. I loved ABBA. I really, really like ABBA. So that it didn't matter to what anybody else thought. Stephen and I sat around and with Vince and the rest of them, and we just marvelled at this. We took turns listening to it, and we marvelled at it. And me and Steve said, we're going to do a cover. And we chose that song, I suppose, because it kind of like the Blancmange humour was that it was appealed to our humour. This big, tall Lancastrian singing this story of a day in a life. The ins and outs of the intricacies of this song. We were young and we just loved the song. We didn't look into all the details. You couldn't Google finding out what it was about. What were the hidden meanings with it? We just absolutely all agree we love ABBA. How can you not love ABBA? Even though at that point they weren't what's the word? They weren't kind of fashionable, So,
yeah.
But to us, it didn't have anything to do with fashionable. We just absolutely adored them. We loved them. So we decided we would do the day before you came, recorded it, and sent it off to the record company. Must have sent it off to ABBA, and they actually wrote back, and not just the record company. ABBA wrote back to us, and they all signed this, and they loved it. They really liked it, and they all signed the letter. And the letter, our manager said, "I've got something for you. I'll meet you in the pub." Near just off Wardour Street, and we went for a pint. and he brought us this letter, which we read. Anyway, Stephen and I, being Blancmange, ended up having a bloody argument, and both of us left the pub, and we left the letter in the pub.
Oh no!
So anyway, they obviously liked it enough for the record company then to say, look, when you do the video, if you want to use any footage from our videos, you can put those in.
A matter of routine, I've done it ever since I finished school. The train back home again, undoubtedly I must have read the evening paper then. Oh yes, I'm sure my life was well within its usual frame. The day before you came.
So a while back, Vince and I had a chat, and we said, oh, you fancy doing something? So we started doing some covers. So basically there's an album's worth of there's an album of covers we've done. And so hopefully that'll see the light today.
Brilliant.
See the light today. And so Benge is involved in that. The three of us have done that. So it's been a lot of fun actually putting it together. And I think there's some great songs that we really like. We all really like. So
But you've both done ABBA covers, so it's not an ABBA album, is it?
Yeah. There might be another one of them, eh?
Oh.
Looking forward to
another ABBA cover.
This cannot be rehearsed. This act is here to stay. They never cared for you. They never cared like I do.
I was looking up from 2014. You've got Semi-Detached, Nil by Mouth, Commuter 23, Unfurnished Ruins, Nil by Mouth 2, Wonderlust Mindset. You've got all the fader stuff. I'd argue you're the hardest working man in music, but I loved Commercial Break. It was one of our top 30 albums. I think I sent you the award last year, but really looking forward to the new album, Private View. Ordered the signed orange vinyl. Can't wait. And you've got a massive tour coming up from October.
Yeah.
Did you still get the same buzz?
I really enjoy performing. I bloody hate touring. I really, I don't like. I'm sure they've put extra yards in the miles.
Quite a few dates you've got. It goes from October to December, this tour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's only it's in groups of 3 and 4 a week.
Yeah.
Right.
So hopefully, we'll remain relatively sane on it. But yeah, the gigs are great, without a doubt. It's if there's an opportunity to meet the fans, that is fantastic as well.
Yeah.
But the monotony of the roads and hotels, certainly, it is quite it will be a bit of a grueling one, but it'll be made worthwhile by, hopefully, fingers crossed, people enjoying coming to and enjoying the shows. Well,
me and Andy saw you at Chinnery's, I think, on the last one.
Southend,
in Southend, and we're going to come along to this one, but we're right in the middle between either the London date or the Colchester date. So we're just talking about which one we're going to go to. We're probably going to go to the Colchester one. I saw Earl Slick at that place. It's a good little venue.
Yeah, it's really nice. It was the first date on our tour that we managed to get out, which had been rearranged, blimey, four times maybe, because of the pandemic. It was the first date on the last tour for a Commercial Break.
I said I'd take more care of you. It never stopped the sky and me from feeling blue. I've seen the word, I've seen the word. I guess you've heard, I've seen.
Neil, did I read that you had signed to London Records again?
Yeah, you know what? I am a lucky man. I was getting to the stage where we were beginning to finish off the album, and Steve said, I really want to play this to London, and he took it off. My manager took it off and played them some of the tracks, and lo and behold, they really liked it, and offered me a deal. So 40 years after first signing to them, Blancmange Incarnation 2 has re-signed. I've come home, and brilliant. I'm delighted, and obviously I hope it all works out as we all hope it works out, but it's a really lovely thing, and I think it's a really nice full circle, to come round. And I was speaking to Stephen the other day, catching up with him, and I told him, and he said, I said, fantastic, and he congratulated me, which is lovely, and gave me a kick up the arse and said, get on with it.
Brilliant.
But, because I wanted to talk to him about the Fader album, which there's one specific track on there, and I wrote it about Stephen and I, and that's that. I just wanted him to know that I'd done that, and I sent it through to him, and so he's had a listen to that now and really liked it. And then we got chatting about the other stuff, and of course, when a very sad news came through last week about Fletch, we obviously were speaking then as well, reminiscing and sharing a kind of sadness and about it. But we keep in touch, and we do have a laugh. And I haven't seen him for a bit, but we speak and exchange messages quite a lot. We get he sends me some funny stuff through from time to time. I won't tell you what he calls me. It isn't Neil. and I can assure you I don't call him Stephen. After many years of working together that time ago, those nicknames have held.
I love it.
I don't think anybody else knows them.
Mate, you've got some amazing kind of memories and stories. You ever thought about writing a book on it?
Well, I've been asked, and I haven't thought about writing it, but I have been asked about it. But I don't know. I always say to people, it's only a blancmange, and that's my attitude. No, but it is. I've got other things I want to do as well.
Sure.
I have a lovely time doing blancmange, but I am not deluded into thinking it's anything. I mean, it's great. We've had a really good time doing it, and I love doing this now. But I don't know whether there's really a need for a book about blancmange.
Fair enough, mate. I can't ask, and I understand where you're coming from, but
is there anyone that you'd really like to collaborate with? Is there someone that you think, that would be interesting?
I'm very fortunate to collaborate with the people at the moment. Working with Benge, both with Fader, and then when it comes to working on the on the blancmange stuff, it's great. I'll tell you a quick story that. Somebody asked, what's the difference between Fader and blancmange? And I can tell you very, very simply what happens is that blancmange, I write the songs and then I take them to Benge. So they all start from my point of view. I write the songs and take them to Benge, and he reacts to them. So that's fundamentally it's the starting point. That is essential here. And then the other way around with Fader, Benge comes up with instrumental tracks, and then I react to those, mainly with lyrics, but sometimes with whoopee cushion sound effects. No, with some synth noises. And beyond that, I'm really lucky to have got a second album with Burnolds that for near future that is in a situation where it needs mixing, so that's written.
Wow.
There are other projects underway as well.
That's brilliant. But we're super honoured to have you on here today, seriously.
Oh, Andy and Mark, thank you so much indeed. That's really lovely, kind words. And I would have known I could have got rid of my studio beer, couldn't I?
No,
mate, we'll go for the tour. I won't go on tour with it.
It looks cool.
God ain't in my kitchen. God ain't in my room. God ain't anywhere I've been. I tell you, I think we're doomed. Ain't over here, ain't over there. Where am I gonna find that man? He can't be found. I just wanna be your friend. How can I be sure you're breaking all the rules? How can I be sure I should be high above? I climbed the mountain, reaching for the skies, and all too soon I jump the moon and find I'm losing my mind. Don't tell me I'm the howling wind. Don't tell me.
Lines of mass people waiting to be passengers on a bus due any minute. This a state we're in. This a state we're in. I wonder, do you miss my love? I know you can't. It's just a wave passing over me. What are these waves? They're coming over me.
It's where all the magic happens.
Yeah.
So that's it for another brilliant Legends interview edition of the Electronic Cafe. I really hope you enjoyed our conversation with the legend that is Mr. Neil Arthur of Blancmange. Neil, thank you so much, mate. We thoroughly enjoyed having you on. Hopefully we can do it again and your Wi-Fi is going to be a bit more stable, mate. But honestly, can't thank you enough. Thoroughly enjoyed it. If you guys have not pre-ordered the new album, you can get it direct from Neil's website or Blancmange's website, and ask Mark to put a link here. And then we'll leave you with a graphic of all the tour dates the Blancmange are playing, so you can go and see them live. Thoroughly recommend you do so. But yeah, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Again, Neil, thank you, mate. And Mark and I will see you very soon on the next edition of the Electronic Cafe. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for watching the Electronic Cafe. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.